I've asked myself for so long, what is whole foods and what is not?
You know, there is so much information going out there that this is healthy. Look at this protein bar in the wrapper. It's got nuts, it's got fruit, but turn it over and you can see how much industrial processing has been through it.
There is no one-size-fits-all diet, but there is a way to eat healthy for everybody, irrespective of the kind of diet that you eat.
If food is like the fuel for our bodies, why do we still know so little about it and get it so wrong? Like, it is so important to our bodies, yet we destroy it with the stuff that we put into our bodies.
We might start the day going, I'm going to eat well, but then kids and work and chaos. And by the end of the day, there's no willpower left. So we shouldn't rely on willpower in terms of making the right decisions. We should rely on systems. You might have heard the phrase, you are what you eat. Rubbish. You are what your body does with what you eat. Imagine two people eat a slice of chocolate cake. One burns it off like jet fuel, the other stores it like retirement savings. Why? Because we're different human beings, different insulin sensitivity, different genetics, different muscle makeup, different gut microbiome. So there is no one-size diet fits all. And what we're going to be talking about today is not rigidity, is not failure diets, but it's flexibility. It's the ability to say, this works for my body, and this is a healthy way to eat. So welcome to More Good Days. This is Fuff, that's Fluff. No, it's not. You started that, man. I got to get a
Non-fluff.
non-fluff.
Okay.
I know Fuff's got a bunch of questions, and Sean's going to jump in there.
And he's the facts.
Yeah.
So there we go. We got it all together.
The whole foods, episode
Whole
number
foods.
5. Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. And I love the way you started there, Dr. Mole, because I think everybody looks at the latest fad. Keto, Banting was big in South Africa for a long time. They tried, but at the end of the day, it's all about what works for your own body, your biology, your genetics, your gut microbiome. So I remember sitting at the beginning of the year with a friend, and he was showing me what he eats. He was like recommending it, and it was yogurt and certain things. But for me, if I have dairy, I bloat up and I basically look like I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't work for me. So what worked perfectly for him didn't work for me. And that started me on this whole journey as to what works for me.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to figure out what works for you as well through investigation and practice and elimination. And so when we're talking about whole foods now, we're going to give some of the guidance and some of the translation to all the over information out there, because nutrition is not taught in schools. People don't know about it.
It's not taught in med school.
It's not even taught in med school. There you go. I mean, how important is that?
So, nothing.
One of the most surprising things is when Faf and I really went on this journey was I was expecting elite sports people that play for national teams to have like a team of doctors with lasers surrounding them, analyzing, giving them, and that wasn't the case. So you've had to do a lot of this, and we've been working together throughout this year, going through your genetics, going through your gut microbiome, and then trying it and seeing certain foods that worked and didn't work, and how you found something that works for you. And it looks completely different to what works for me. So, and Dr. Moore, your eating and your foods that you love and work with your body and your genetics will be completely different. So there's three people, three completely different diets, all having the same enhancing results.
Which Mr. Lunn? I'm going to call you Mr. Lunn if you keep calling me Dr. Mole. So Sean, Mike.
Okay, Mike, Dr. Mike.
Which is such a good point, because as soon as you see someone on TikTok with great abs saying, you need to be eating this, you do not need to be eating that.
No.
And that's the problem. Well, I wouldn't say great abs. Maybe when I was your age. No, in fact, we're pretty similar. Yeah. Gotta watch what I'm saying. But the point is, and Sean makes a great point, is there's such individual biology when it comes to eating. Please don't listen to said person, with no top on, kind of going, you should be eating this or not eating that. We're different.
Yeah, because it's a double whammy. Then somebody makes a sacrifice or purchases it and then does it and then doesn't get the results. And then they go, I'm not worthy of this. I can't do it. And then their failure breeds more failure. And then they usually slide more into the processed food, the junk food, the fast food. And that is as important to talk about here as the whole foods, because we're talking about the positive, but we're definitely going to have to speak about the ultra processed foods and the restaurant foods and the fast foods, and why are they so bad for you? Everybody knows they're bad for you, but they dance with that darkness. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but they dance with it quite happily. But it's looking at the whole foods to change that up and eliminate the process. And we just need to give some structure on what are the whole foods then. So maybe that's where we should start. Like, what are whole foods? Because some people might not be 100% sure.
Yeah, if you're standing in a supermarket and you're going, Sean's saying, I need to eat whole foods.
Yes.
What is whole foods and what is not?
Well, the little hack, because we like hacks on the show, is that pretty much everything in the middle of the shopping center, that's all ultra processed food. Anything in packets and tins, and there's certain tin foods that are okay, but anything in a packet is pretty much not going to be a whole food. You usually find whole foods on the outsides of supermarkets. So if you're standing in the middle aisle, you're going to look for a long time before you find whole foods. They are on the outside. And
yeah, I mean, my rule of thumb is if it walks, if it crawls, if it flies, if it swims, if it eats plants, you could probably eat it. That's a whole food. In fact, if there are no ingredients on the packaging, it's probably a whole food.
Yeah.
I mean, when you buy a banana, ingredients, banana.
Yes.
That's a dead giveaway.
Absolutely.
If it's food that your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize, it's more than likely processed food.
Sure. That's amazing.
And that's why labels are so important. And we spoke about this early on, Faf, in our journey, is if you turn over a label and there's words that you can't pronounce or can't understand, your body can't understand them either. So if you assimilate that, like you don't know what that is, your body doesn't know what it is. And if your body doesn't know what it is, it causes havoc, which ends up being inflammation.
Yeah, yogurt berry bar with additional amino acids, vitamin B12, and nuts.
Exactly.
That's processed.
And all those chemical, science words. Something, but that's only through talking to you the last year or so. Like, I used to think if you buy something in a supermarket that's got some sort of vegetables in, it's healthy.
Yes,
right?
or fruits.
Or fruit. Because now when I look at it at the back and I read the label, I'm going, this is what I remember my science, why I failed science at standard 6. Because I couldn't understand any of these words. And I'm like, okay, that means it's not, like you said, it's not from the earth, it's not from a cow, it's not from a plant, it's not from a fruit.
How much
It's
fruit
been
are in a fruit
manufactured,
loops?
right? So here's a question, like, I think that I've asked myself so long. If food is like the fuel for our bodies, and it's so important, we know food, sleep, hydration are the 3 big things, and it affects our recovery, our longevity or long-term health. Why do we still know so little about it and get it so wrong? Like, it is so important to our bodies, yet we destroy it with the stuff that we put into our bodies.
Because marketing is confusing. There is so much information going out there that this is healthy. Look at this protein bar in the wrapper. It's got nuts, it's got fruit. But turn it over and you can see how much industrial processing has been through it. So those ingredients, when they came, like the fruit or the nuts or something, it has a natural structure. So, for example, a banana. A banana has a structure, and when you eat it, it slowly releases the glucose into your body. Even if you put that banana in a smoothie, it obliterates the fiber, which means all the glucose in one shot goes into your bloodstream, and then it has the opposite effect on how it was designed, because it was designed for slow release. But as soon as you process it, and the simplest form is putting it in a smoothie, but if you think about that on an industrial scale, it takes all the ingredients, it whips it up, it smashes it. So it started as the whole food, so they can say it includes this beautiful whole food. But by the time it gets into your body, it's got fillers, flavorants, colorants, preservatives. And then when that goes into your body, that's when the inflammation starts and your body starts to reject it. And because I've said a big word, inflammation, I always thought inflammation was like swollen joints or
Mm.
bloating, but that's not actually the cause of the issue. And the good Dr. Mike can correct me if I get this wrong, but inflammation is essentially inflammation of your cell walls. So if think of all the trillions of cells, if you are putting food in your body that inflames your cell walls, it doesn't matter if you've got the right amount of hormones and nutrients and minerals in your blood. If your cell walls are inflamed, the minerals and the hormones can't get into the cells to do their work, and also the bad stuff can't get out. So when you have a high level of inflammation, it's a double whammy, because your cells are inflamed, so you're not going to feel great. But then even if you have the right amount of all these nutrients and that in your blood, they can't get in and the bad stuff can't get out. So, and then it just perpetuates and gets worse and gets worse. So that's what inflammation means. And I don't know if I got it right.
Yep.
But I think that's what most people don't understand. And as soon as I understood that, it changed the way I thought about inflammation. So like, oh, that's why I need to make sure my body doesn't get inflamed, because then it can use these beautiful things that are in your body to regulate it.
But that's still like, that's how you've now grown to understand, and it's still a high level of an answer. Like I'm trying to break it down to everyone out there.
Yeah.
Why are we know
Yeah.
takeaways, fast
Yeah.
foods is bad for us. We know it's not good for our bodies. We've got an idea of what the right foods are, but we still choose not to do it. I'm saying is, if it's that important to our bodies, and it's such a good thing for us, why do we put so much crap in it?
I think, Faf, the big issue there is because willpower is just the worst strategy ever when it comes to eating. Like, I should be doing this, I know, but I don't, because it's like a body battery. We run out of it very quickly. We might start the day going, I'm going to eat well, but then kids and work and chaos. And by the end of the day, there's no willpower left. So we shouldn't rely on willpower in terms of making the right decisions. We should rely on systems.
Yeah.
And I think the systems are rained against us. We walk into a grocery store or a hypermarket and all the bad stuff is front and center, bright and beautiful. It tastes good. It's within arm's reach. The system is against us. And so what we try to do in our family is build systems that allow us to make good choices. So I have a sweet tooth of note. There is no sugar in our household. When I get a sweet tooth craving, I've got to go, I've got to find the icing sugar that's in the back of the shelf under this thing and just get a scoop of that, because there's just nothing there.
Yeah,
and
so
that's
remove the temptation.
Remove the help make the good decisions the easy decisions. And that's when it comes down to building the systems that work.
And I suppose the other thing that most people think is that if you want to eat whole foods, it's too expensive. So like the reason why I eat junk food is because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Right. And that's probably the thing that most people would say. So how do you eat whole foods and it doesn't have to break the bank?
Preparation, because what going back to what Dr. Mike said, if you have systems in place, so for example, if you've had a really good healthy breakfast with lots of fats and protein, and then you are satiated, you're not hungry anymore, when you're out, you have a less temptation and you need less willpower to stop it. So and part of that process is making sure that you have the good ingredients at home. So buying whole foods, buying vegetables, you can get, you're going to have to prepare. So you're going to have to do weekly shops, buy weekly shops to make sure you always have the fresh ingredients, and looking for outlets where you can, for example, if you want grass-fed steak, you need to go and try and find farmers where you can get it delivered to your house. Same with vegetables.
And is grass-fed steak more expensive than normal steak? Because if I'm looking at, once again, the angle here is price point, because that's the reason why people say,
sure,
I eat this because it's too expensive. So now you're going to things like, I'm trying to figure out what is to break the mold if it's too expensive to eat healthy or to eat whole foods.
So let's take that steak, for example. So the gold standard is to get, let's say, a grass-fed steak, and the reason for that is that it has more omega-3 in it than omega-6. We're going to speak about omega-6 now when we talk about inflammation and seed oils. So in an omega, with high omega-6 and grass-fed, it means it's almost an anti-inflammatory, or it certainly doesn't inflame you. So that's the most expensive. However, if you had ground beef or mincemeat, that you're getting the same protein and the fat, and it's a much cheaper price point. So there are ways that you can look at the proteins that you need, look for what's the high end, and then have that whenever you are able to afford it. And then as a staple, move to something like ground beef mincemeat, which is almost getting exactly the same benefits at a much cheaper price point. So that methodology you can use with all the other ingredients as well. So there might be certain, fruits that you get from certain places, but then have a look what the alternative is and make sure you have them available as well. I don't know if you've got anything else to add on that.
And you ask a very important question, and that's a tough question, because I don't think there's an easy answer to that. But if you look at the science around whole foods and highly processed foods, whole foods have got antioxidants and micronutrients, and they've got fiber in them, which means you eat less.
Yeah.
Arguably around 20% less.
And therefore saving money versus
you
spending
save money. Yeah. Whereas highly processed foods are hyper palatable. They skip the digestive, cues that your body's saying, hey, we've had enough, and you just keep eating. And so you eat way too much of the wrong food. It's going to cost you more in the end. Not, forgetting the health bills that you're paying for, but whole food in a sense, they're building blocks, and it says to your body, hey, we're building, we're growing, and you've had enough. And those cues come from whole foods, not from hyper-processed foods.
So what actually then happens to the body, like when you speak now about what processed foods does to you versus non-processed?
Well, you're asking the question around what's the difference between whole food and processed food.
Yeah,
let me give you a classic example.
Body.
The difference between 100 calories of kale and 100 calories of Coca-Cola. All right, that's a different podcast altogether. Kids don't do drugs. Yeah. So 100 calories of Coke, 100 calories of kale. On paper, same energy. Yeah. All right, in the body, vastly different. So kale, as I mentioned earlier, fiber and micronutrients and bioflavonoids and antioxidants. And your microbiome, your gut bacteria, loves kale. In fact, it loves fiber. Fiber does nothing for you. It feeds your gut bacteria. And they love that. And it takes work to absorb that. So your body's already burning calories just by absorbing those calories. In fact, up to 20%. So that 100 calories of kale that you're taking, 20% is consumed by the gut bacteria. So you're already having less calories, whereas Coke, it gets ghosted by your gut microbiome, and it goes straight into sugar, and your body goes, what? It's like an over-ambitious intern with zero boundaries. That's what Coke does. So vastly different response to your body, whole food versus processed food.
And that's good to be mentioned, because fiber is something, honestly, I didn't know too much about fiber. And this takes us back to the conversation around, as a high elite athlete, you think you know something about food, and my upbringing would have been something like, have a balanced plate, have some vegetables, have some carbs, have some protein. So I think that gets like installed in us throughout when we grow up. But fiber is something that you don't really talk about. And now, understanding food a little bit better, fiber is so important to your gut health.
Oh yeah.
So why does fiber get lost in conversation versus protein and carbs?
Well, you said it, gut health. So fiber doesn't feed you, Faf. Fiber feeds your gut bacteria. And what gut bacteria does is it converts that fiber into short-chain fatty acids. And what that essentially does is it just reduces inflammation in your gut and your brain. It plays a role in producing dopamine and serotonin. In fact, 90% of serotonin, that feel-good hormone that makes us like, is produced in your gut.
Sure.
Thanks to your gut bacteria. And it starts with fiber. So that alone should be enough reason to kind of go, I've got to get enough fiber.
No, because I did the same. I was like, I've got a genetically high inflammation in my body. So I was like, what can I eat that is the opposite? What's anti-inflammatory? And the first thing that pops up is you need to have good fiber.
Ironically, as an athlete, fiber is going to affect your willpower and your mood and your immune system. So by not having it, you're just putting yourself at a
and once again, like how little we know about this and how important it is.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about it is that whole foods have fiber naturally in them. I used that smoothie illustration earlier, but if you took, like in superfood smoothies or green smoothie or whatever, if you took all those individual ingredients and you actually ate them as they were intended, you'd probably only get through about 60% of them before you were full, and then you'd have long sustained energy because the fiber is naturally releasing it over time. It's like a time release system. Whereas when you obliterate it and grind it all up, that structure, that fiber, the way nature intended it, is not there. So you get all of it in one go, which can have alternate effects than what you want. And I think it's really important just to talk about insulin here, because, for example, this beautifully healthy smoothie, which everybody tells you should have, and you get rewarded with them. But if you go and have them at the wrong times, your blood sugar rises, which means your insulin comes out, so that it can start to reduce that. But this is the thing: insulin is a storage hormone. So think of storing fat. So if you go and have this thing, sweets, fruit, and you time it wrong, your insulin is high. So if you're not burning it off, the next meal that comes along, your body's in storage mode. So it goes, let me take these calories and let's store it. What does it store it as? Stores it as fat. So these insulins, so that's why insulin and regulating it and your blood sugar and fiber is so important, because if you're eating them in their natural forms, the blood sugar and the insulin response is blunted, completely blunted.
So it's more stable.
Yeah.
It doesn't spike.
It doesn't spike. And on that, we all know about Sean Shooter, but having some apple cider vinegar before something that's going to spike your blood sugar blunts that, which means there's less insulin, which means it takes quicker to get out of your system, less chance you're going to crash, less chance you're going to store it as fat. So insulin and blood sugar are so important, especially for the people that are trying to lose weight. So I had to learn that. I was always snacking. And it was those little things. So if you have, like, let's say a Lindt chocolate at 10 o'clock because you need a pickup, so that goes straight into your blood sugar, completely processed. There's no natural things in there. Cacao, which makes it up, is all gone. It's obliterated. It's had sugar. So that's processed. Huge blood sugar spike, huge insulin. If I go and have a croissant or something after that, about an hour, that's pretty much going around my waist. So I think people really need to understand that, about the importance of using whole foods and that fiber, because it makes you satiated, it makes you feel full, which means you got less chance to snack, which means you got less chance for insulin, less chance of storing fat. So I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, I mean, our whole life as doctors, we used to tell patients to snack regularly to keep your blood sugar consistent. And that's just bad advice.
Yeah, it is.
What you want to do is keep your insulin as low as possible, because when insulin is high,
So the more you eat, the more this happens.
and when your insulin is high, you're storing food as fat, and you're preventing the use of fat as energy. So, and that's just not great. So you want to keep insulin as low as possible for as long as possible, which is where fasting comes to play. We're going to talk about that.
And I think, like,
Stay tuned for
that's
fast.
almost like another area where we feel we're not quite sure, because nutrition and advice from doctors and dietitians have changed so much over the years. So the next 1 minute it's high fat, the next minute it's protein, ketone, vegan. Like, that's part of the thing, is that everyone's overwhelmed, like, what diet should I follow? So, like, you can answer, but my philosophy on this is whatever diet you follow, as long as it brings you back to whole foods, like the real food. So if you're a vegan and you're eating whole foods from a vegan perspective, you're good. But
no, absolutely, you're so right. No, you're spot on. And the whole idea is what we said in the beginning: there is no one size fits all diet, but there is a way to eat healthy for everybody, irrespective of the kind of diet that you eat. Just given cultural tastes and preferences. So, so yes, I do apologize on behalf of the medical fraternity, because it does feel like every week there's something new. But here's the difference: science evolves slowly, quietly, and with validity. Okay.
What is validity?
It means we know more today than we knew yesterday, because the studies are better, because we're looking at more studies, we're thinking about things differently. So science is just improving day on day. So if you can stay up with the latest science, do that. The problem is science does it quietly, and we're conservative. We're like those Pretoria boykies. You don't kind of just shout stuff. We just want to hold back until we can say for sure, hand on heart, this is the truth.
Okay.
The flip side
But these guys, the biohackers, don't
The
have to be.
TikTokers with those wonderful abs we talked about, they
They don't have to be cautious.
know the least, but they know the loudest.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
And they have influence.
And they have
People believe
influence.
that.
And because so many, because you have 4.5 million followers on Instagram, who's got that? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
You know,
it's actually
listen
5.
to you, but you're using that wisely. A lot of people just because I've got so many followers, it must be the truth. No. And so that's the challenge we have.
What's the
that's
great
why it's
Spider-Man
difficult.
quote? With great responsibility comes
Absolutely.
Great power.
great power.
And I think, you know, as much as we talk about
Great
Whole Foods,
power comes great responsibility.
yeah, there we go. We got it.
Right.
We got it.
Like,
I'm not
sound
Spider-Man.
right,
If
you know.
you're thinking I'm not
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
Close.
We you know, as we've been speaking about the Whole Foods, we said we need to speak about the fast foods, and it's so prevalent. I mean, if you've almost got no chance. If you're hungry and you're walking around the city, you're going to be walking out with some type of burger or fried chicken or something like that. And I think I can almost hear somebody saying, yes, but there's beautiful ground beef in a burger and there's a tomato. That's Whole Foods. Why is it bad? Or chicken. Chicken is supposed to be healthy.
Look at the ingredients of cake. There's egg in there.
Exactly. You know, it's like there's Whole Foods, and it comes down to the processing. So it's stripping out the fiber, which we've said a lot, but I need to keep saying it because people need to know that. But there's another thing that happens, and that's the seed oils, because the majority of fast food, restaurant food, they use seed oils. Seed oils like canola, rapeseed, sunflower oil. We've all seen them. They're incredibly cheap. They're incredibly stable. They last for a long time, and they're everywhere. So of course, if you are a fast food place, you're gonna go for that because it's going to make more profit. But what happens with the seed with seed oils is that it's because of the linoleic acid within it, which is a high omega-6. So if you have a little bit of omega-6, like with everything in moderation, is great. If you have too much, it causes inflammation. So it's the linoleic acid in seed oils that do it. Even worse when they come under high heat, because especially something fried, it goes into high oxidation. It breaks up all the chains that are holding it together, and it actually just goes haywire. And then you fry your chicken in it. Even if they throw it out every day at high heat, the stuff becomes unstable. It goes, and then they don't throw it out every day. It'd be too expensive. Sometimes it lasts weeks. And then you go and let's say you take that fried chicken, which looks amazing and tastes amazing. I used to love it. And then you eat it. But then as it goes into your body, you've got all these inflammatory things coming out of these seed oils. And that is actually why in majority, if you're looking at certain restaurants or certain, especially fast foods, it's about the oil. It's not just the processing. That's bad enough. Because remember, it takes away the fiber, which means it never tells your brain that you're full. So you can go and have another double cheeseburger and another one because all your natural warning signs to turn off, you're done. They are bypassed, very chemically engineered. And then you go, oh, I could have another one. You probably do, because then there's more profit. So a lot of these things come down to commercial, marketing, processing, and the use of the wrong ingredients, which is seed oil.
Yeah, so the last 6 months to a year, seed oils has got a terrible, and I hear what you're saying. And now when I look at labels, I'm surprised to see how many things actually have almost everything. But same thing, why only now? Why now is seed oils bad? I mean, science couldn't be that bad last year that we didn't know about it last year, because last year
we had lasers then.
We were still eating a lot of seed oil. So I mean, it's probably a question that it's not for us to answer, but I'm just throwing it out there. Like, it's bad now, and I get it.
Yeah,
I'm doing it and I'm following it, and I've cut seed oils mostly out of my diet. But why is it only now bad?
It's not only now, it's who shouts the loudest.
Okay, so the right people are shouting the loudest right now.
No, I think people are becoming more aware and less trusting of what they believed all the time. You know, it's just the general consensus is X, so we believe that. Now people going, I don't know, I'm not so sure. You know, there's this fake news. There's this, can we really trust the source of where this is coming from? So I do sense there's a generation coming up through the ranks that are just, they're better critical thinkers, and that's keeping us on our toes, and they question everything. And I think that's a great start when it comes to health, is question everything.
Yes.
You know, get to the truth, get to the source. And you know, what we're trying to do here is a bit of that. A lot of what we're going to say, not a lot, but I'm sure some of what we're going to say can be cherry picked and sort of, you know, thrown darts at and kind of say, nah, that's not altogether true. No one gets it right all the time. But
And
the point is, we don't want rigidity. We don't want perfection. We want guidelines in the right direction. And yeah, just something that says we've given some thought to this before just putting it in my mouth.
Absolutely.
And on the oil topic, something I've realized, because I speak about I'm a high inflammation marker body. Olive oil came up as one of the most anti-inflammatory oils that you can eat. So I cook with it now, but I also understand that there's a certain level where the high heat of olive oil gets burnt away, basically. But so what I'm doing is I add a little bit of olive oil to my Sean shooter in the morning, because there's good theory out there that drinking olive oil is actually best for you. So I would add a tablespoon in the morning, and then over salads and stuff, because I find that's a big change in the way that I respond. I went to a heart doctor to does preventative heart stuff, and he said I've got a really high marker. It's called a lipoprotein A. There's a small, what is it called? A small
Lipoprotein. Yeah.
And it's a genetic thing. So there's nothing you can do really in your diet to change it. But he goes, the stuff that you're actually eating and putting on your body will affect it. So you can affect it positively, but not so much the other way around.
Activate it.
Anti-inflammatory diets, and olive oil is a really good one for that. So I'm a big believer in olive oil now.
When we talk about anti-inflammatory or pro-inflammatory, omega-6 is pro-inflammatory, so increases the level of inflammation. Omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. The ratio in our bodies normally and naturally should be 1 to 4. 1 omega-3 to 4 omega-6. That's healthy. The current state, if you look at studies, shows that it's more like 1 to 20 in terms of omega-3s versus omega-6. So we live in a hectic inflammatory state.
And there's lots of stuff that's got omega-6 in it.
Precisely. And supplements. I mean, I want to throw up in my mouth when I see these supplements that have omega-3, 6, and 9. You're like, why would you want 6 and 9?
Yeah.
And you just want omega-3.
Yeah. Look, there's so many things that are good about olive oil. I mean, humans have been consuming olive oil for thousands of years. If you go around Italy and Rome, there's olive oil, big jugs and ceramics. It's been around forever. So the thing about olive oil is that it has polyphenols and antioxidants in it.
Polyphenols are essentially bodyguards for your body's cells, if you like. So they're produced by plants. And what happens when petrol is burned in your car, it produces exhaust fumes. When you and I eat, we produce free radicals, and that causes oxidation in our bodies. All right. And what polyphenols do, they're antioxidants. So they prevent the damage caused by the exhaust fumes that our body produces in the food that we eat. So the more polyphenols you have, the better.
Okay.
What you have to remember about olive oil is that olives are a fruit. So they are pressed like a fruit. So extra virgin is cold press. A cold press and extra virgin are very similar. If it's olive oil, it is generally a blend. So it's from different processes. Some of it will be cold pressed, some of it won't be.
And other seed oils?
Only you need to actually check, because sometimes if it's below 10%, they only have to put it on the back, not the front. So if you see extra virgin olive oil, that means it's all olive oil. What you should be looking for is single estate. So it's in one place, never been mixed with something else. So if it's olive oil, it might have used heat in the process, which means it's probably killed some of or lessened the benefits, like the antioxidants and the polyphenols. And look for a harvest date, because it's a fruit. You don't want it to be, expiring next. They'll have an expiration date. It needs to be as far into the future as possible, because that means it's as fresh as it can be now. So think of it as fruit. You don't want to eat fruit in a few months' time. It's the same with olive oil. You want to eat it fresh. And the thing about olive oil is when it's got the highest polyphenols and the highest antioxidants, which means it's the best for inflammation, it actually tastes peppery. So you taste it and goes, oh, that's almost like a spice. That's when it's got the highest amount of benefits in it. So if you taste pepper and you see extra virgin olive oil, those are the ones to go for.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've spoken about a lot of these elements, and now let's just get practical for you. We need to just basically give you something that you can go away and do and feel empowered. So let's do that. So practically, how do people take this information and start changing their life for the better? For me, the number one thing that I can say is cook at home as much as you can. Because when you're cooking at home, you are in control of the ingredients. Those systems that we spoke about, that's you purchasing things, not making sure things don't have ingredient labels that are more than 2 ingredients. Whole food, something that you can recognize, see it in its true form, whether that's wild caught fish, beef, lamb, root veg, legumes, nuts, seeds, cruciferous. How do you say that word? Cruciferous.
Cruciferous.
Cruciferous veg.
Leafy greens.
Leafy
Cruciferous,
greens.
it's like cauliflowers. Like
Yeah, I practice. I can never.
greens.
I can.
I'll just go leafy
That one. Leafy greens, root veg. Those are whole foods. So if you find out what works for your body, and if you cook at home, then you know that you're not putting in fillers and preservatives and using seed oil from a fryer. You know you're in control. That's the number one thing that you can do. Because practically, if you are eating out, you are trusting your health with behind the scenes stuff that you know nothing about, and you're paying for that privilege of inflammation.
And that's
Cook
for
it
me is like honestly the biggest challenge. Like I had a good break now at home where I was 4.5 months because of injury at home, and I love the process of being at home
Yes.
and being in control of
Yeah.
what you eat, right, and what you cook. The challenge of being on the road is 80% of the time you have to eat in restaurants.
Yeah.
Or hotels. So I've got no idea what oils they're using.
Yeah.
So now it's like this new world for me that's open now, because now I'm going on tour. Now I'm going, actually, how do I do this as best as possible? And
Yes.
it's not easy because you still don't know. So like a cheat code for me is like, okay, let's go breakfast. The only thing I know that I can know that it's good for me is eggs, right? So
Boiled eggs.
now I go, I can't have scrambled eggs because I don't know what they're cooking in.
They've
So
put
the
something in it.
option here is a poached egg or a boiled egg. So it's
Yeah.
not. It's just little ways of understanding that if I'm not sure what they're cooking behind in the kitchen,
Yes.
just try and think of things in their most purest form, right? So vegetables, leafy greens, whatever. If it's there and it's grilled, or even just asking the chef for some grilled vegetables, because normally what I would do is I'll be like, ooh, there's vegetables, but it's drenched in like
The sauce.
sugary sauce or whatever. So you eat it and you think, I'm getting my vegetables in.
Yeah.
I'm eating healthy, but that's the problem is we don't know that level of it. Or you're eating a steak and it's come to a massive basting or a mushroom sauce.
Yes.
You're going
Exactly.
like, you
Sauces
think
are not
I'm
your
eating
friend.
the protein and I'm doing all the right things, but it's just like understanding food a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I think that's when your body really goes, because what I felt from a sportsman perspective is when I started eating more whole foods, is I wake up feeling less pain, like less
Inflammation.
painful, and that's inflammation, right? Because your
absolutely.
body's going and taking all of those things away,
Yeah.
and it's nice waking up without pain.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh, maybe you're getting a bit older.
Yeah.
But it's just eating
inflammation.
better. You eat better and like you feel it.
But you brought up a very good point, which is like, okay, great, so I'm going to cook, but does that mean I can't go out to a restaurant with my friends? I mean, and that's not what we're talking about here, because that's social interaction. You know, there are ways that you can compensate, and you also don't want to. And every now and then, you know what? You're just going to have to eat whatever comes, because no one wants to be that person pushing back. I get it. I do that. I'll just eat it every now and then.
What we're talking about here is not rigidity. It's not like you've got to eat like this and this is all I can have, and because there's no joy in that. There's certainly no winning in that.
Yeah.
A rigid diet means I fail more than I win.
Yeah.
We're talking flexibility, what works for you, because you know eating is part of life, and if there's no joy in that, I mean, if you look at your blue zone, you know, individuals in Okinawa and
Yeah.
Sardinia, you know,
in
they're
Italy.
eating carbs, they're drinking wine,
Yeah.
they're living long, because there's a certain amount of joy that needs to be part of what we're doing. This is not joyless self-denial we're teaching here.
Flexible is sustainable.
So if you were to ask me a practical approach, and first thing I say is there's no one size diet fits all, guys. So what works for you, what works for your biology, that works for you. But if you want to talk about healthy eating, eat less often, eat less sugar. Those three things. If you can stick to that, most of us are overnourished and under muscled.
Yes.
So, and every study from yeast to humans to primates shows that if we can reduce calorie intake, we reduce inflammation, we lose weight, we slow down the pace of aging. There's such good, and it's not significant reduction. It's 20% less, a little bit less.
And I think that as we wrap up this episode, maybe we leave everybody with one last comment for you, so that you get something else practical out of it. I'm going to say it again: cook at home. There is something beautiful about cooking at home with your family. You can, even if you're cooking on your own, you're in complete control of your food. You know exactly what's going in, and I highly recommend it. Bring friends around, cook for them. You can still be social cooking at home. You don't have to eat out at restaurants. And if you really want to know how to save money on whole foods, eat at home instead of eating out at fast foods and restaurants. That extra amount of money alone will make it easier for you to buy high quality ingredients at home, which, by the way, tastes so much better than food made with sauces and fancy things to accelerate them. For me, I think it's cheaper to eat the good food at home and cut out some of the excessive restaurant and frequenting of places of fast food nature. For me, I think that's the way to balance and save money.
Yeah, I said it. I think I'd prefer waking up without pain than head pain, so without inflammation. So I want to put fuel in my body that is whole foods, that is helping me to achieve that versus fighting against it. And like we also said, it's not going to be perfect all the time. So as long as I'm living in the 75 percentile of eating consistently decent, there is days when I can eat whatever I want, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I want to end with an apology from the medical fraternity. I think we've confused things for everybody. There is so much noise around diets and nutritional advice. It's often easier to complete your income tax return than it is to figure out what's healthy to eat. So an apology from us. If you want one simple basic rule, it's this: eat less junk food, eat more real food.
And there was one biohacker who uses the phrase, concentrate on eating what God gave us and not what man made us. And every time I go off the track, I think of that and I go, that makes perfect sense. Because if you can remember that, it shows you what whole foods are intrinsically. So remember that one.
I like that. If it comes from a plant or it eats plants, it's good.
Yeah.
If it was made in a plant, not.
There you go. That's memorable.
Waited a long time on that one.
I
We
did.
were trying to fill the lines and you just dished it out.
Exactly. So we've spoken about a lot of topics today. There's not enough time to cover everything. So maybe let us know in the comments what else you'd like us to focus on. We don't know it all. We've tried to go through as much as possible. We are going to have to do many follow-up episodes on this. There are so many topics we could have spoken about. We could have spoken about an hour just on olive oil alone. So let us know in the comments what tickled your interest, what you want to know more on, where can we go deeper on this. We want to hear from you, and let us know if you have any tips as well so that we can learn. So we're on this journey together. Please stick with us and we'll all have more good days.
And we love your feedback, even if it is on sleeve length of Puff's t-shirts, so you can see more or less of the tattoo. So let us know if you want to see more or less.
I don't think there is any more. That's full exposure.
There we go.
Where's the comeback?
No comeback.
Oh, just take that one.
No, sometimes silence is best.